mid-quarter, we were seeing 20,000 plus people being infected on a daily basis. So obviously, the public health facilities couldn't really handle that. So there's a lot of repercussions coming from that incident. Obviously, although we don't get impacted directly as opposed to tourism industry or the aviation, the side effect is obviously impacted everyone in the whole world, basically. So in terms of operation, obviously the walks, the pre-sales, transfer suffered, but we maybe the numbers for third quarter were a bit could be of a surprise for someone who have not followed us closely. But we have been informing the investment communities that we in the process of doing balance sheet reform, basically to make us stronger to weather this storm, the impact in terms of financials, in terms of liquidities for the company. So we did a lot of that, and third quarter was one transaction that was actually put the bottom line into the red. But if you really look into the detail, the core operation, the core business was not that bad actually, given the impact, the potent impact of the COVID-19. So I guess if you look at the results, we should look it on the longer term basis, at least 1 year. Having said that, I guess there was some. I mean, obviously, condominium segment was severely impacted. Obviously, we only have 2 projects. One is super ultra luxury condominium along the Chao Phraya River. That one has been attracted a lot of foreign buyers. Obviously, not being able to come in to see it into the country, the appetite dried down a bit. Also on the what you call it, specifically targeted condominium, low rise, 8-story low rise condominium that we put out to attract medical personnel at the Sirirat Hospital. You can kind of, I guess, see that doctors and nurses were quite busy during July, August, and September. So the sales on that also suffered and transfer as well. But there's some small light in terms of construction service revenue. We seeing good momentum from that, basically coming from build to order houses in our projects across the portfolio. I guess for the outlook that we will touch on as we go along. This slide we put up last quarter. Okay, it's a strategic direction that we outlined early on this year. One of the things that we wanted to focus was the improving the efficiency. What we mean by that is actually go down and manage the balance sheet thoroughly. We look at the inventory, we look at the land bank that has been on the book for a while, and if it's not suitable for development in the near term, given the situation that we are facing right now, we decided to sell some of the plots to basically lessen the financial costs and basically also provide working capital for the operation as well. So for the third quarter, we actually realized one piece, which is Bang Rak Yai on the slide. If I point out, if you can see the cursor, the pointer, we sold 4.5 rai of land land bank next to Bang Rak Yai station on the purple line. The rationale, the benefit was that to lower the debt. I think we drove down about 200 million baht in terms of debt. So the saving in terms of interest expense and interest carrying costs would go down proportionately. This one was actually the contract was signed in early July, but that was prior to the closing or the release of the second quarter results. So I guess that you could kind of see or anticipate this transaction already in the second quarter results. There was an exceptional admin expense, basically provisioning for the net realizable value of this land. 56 million baht drove up in terms of admin expense, was abnormally high in the second quarter. But in the third quarter, when it's actually transacted, revenue went up, the costs follow. That 56 million baht that was provision in the second quarter got reversed in the third quarter. So that's why if you look at on the quarterly basis, you would be subject to roller coaster results a little bit. But on a 9 months, you could kind of see it more clearly. There was one more transaction actually that listed on the page on the bottom left, which is the Lom Krao land. We bought 15 rights of a land along the Lom Krao road. If you're familiar with Bangkok, this road leads directly into the Suvarnabhumi airport. The strategic move was that if you look at the second quarter, we sold 10 rights of SD5, Krungthep Rita SD5. We call that the south of the new brand new street. Out of the rationale that we have about 200 rights on that along that road, so we basically diversify, or maybe if you will, sell 10 rights and buy 15 rights in the segment that is bringing us lower, more affordable price range. So we'll be coming up with home office, probably under the brand NIRVANA at Work, but on the lower end of the spectrum, if you look at on the price range. So that's being developed right now. As a result of this, interest-bearing debt came down from 7 billion to 6.6 billion. If you look at the second quarter, was a little bit lower than this. We take on a bit more debt for Lom Krao land acquisition. Okay, these are the location of the lands that we're talking about. I'll recap what happened in the early third quarter, the first plot, which has a lot of impact on the third quarter results. As I mentioned, this land is about 4.5 rights along the purple line. This was added onto the balance sheet through the M&A back in early 2017. Obviously, when it got onto our balance sheet at that point, everything was marked up to the market at that point, market level. So given the supply along purple line, which we all know, from that point, 2017 up until now, there has not been any sign of what you call it, pick up in terms of industry at all. So the cost of this land when it was entered into the balance sheet was relatively high, basically market value at that point. So our decision to sell this piece was a bit under the book value. So that's the main catalyst that make the put the second quarter into loss. The second piece was actually if you talk about buy and sell transaction, we sold another 10 rai on SD5, which I mentioned earlier, to diversify into Romkrau area, which is the next location. But just to recap, we did refinance partial SD4 from a bridging loan to bond. Okay, so basically, this is another example of balance sheet reform. The land along this road has accumulated very quickly in terms of market value. Looking back at the bridging loan against it, the LTV was very, very low. So to make everything more efficient, this was one of the moves that we refinanced bridging loan with a higher LTV bond, just to help the whole picture that we try to manage. Lastly, which is the Romkrau land along the Romkrau road. This one is 15 rai, as I mentioned, adjacent to a big communities, residential communities. This one is along the major road that we could develop into a sub-segment of the home office. So implication, obviously, the big, relatively large for us in terms of land sales, Bang Rak Yai drove up the revenue. Basically, if you look on the quarterly basis, it hasn't really dropped. The 9 months also, but distorted margin quite a bit at the gross level as well as the operating level. But the good thing was that is lower. Okay, maybe taking a look at the operational indicators a little bit. You can see that we saw the lowest number of walks quarterly basis in third quarter, which just passed. I don't know if it's actually wave 3 or wave 4 or wave 5, but it was very adverse to the entire communities. And if you remember, as I mentioned earlier, we saw the peak of daily infected people above 20,000 people a day. So just to bring this along as a reminder of what happened in the third quarter. In terms of pre-sales, it wasn't that bad actually. If you look at the conversion rate, it was 7%. I guess there are some real demand here and there that we could capture, although those customers didn't really come into the project, but they I guess find way to look at our products online and coming in basically already decided what in their mind that they wanted that product. So that's why the pre-sales was a little bit higher than the second quarter even. The mix of the pre-sale was mostly obviously landed residential. Condominium was quite low in terms of appetite. Translating into transfers, it's not that low because of the Bang Rak Yai transaction that helps support. This is actually one of the strategy that we have been communicating all along, that to really achieve quality of growth, meaning less volatilities in terms of earnings. Property developer must have at least four area of revenue stream. One is trading. Second is develop for sale, which is the bread and butter for us. Develop for rent. We have been trying to come up with that's revenue streams. And lastly, property management revenue. We believe that if we could do that and manage the weighting properly, the fluctuation would be less. So in terms of revenue in this quarter, you can see, but on the earnings, I guess the timing of the transaction didn't really match. So on a quarterly basis was a bit up and down. The pressure on the P&L, this is another reminder of what happened. If you take back about 2 or 3 months from now, you could remember that the construction camp were closed, were locked down actually abruptly. The momentum was lost completely. What this impacted us quite a bit in terms of construction revenue. If you remember, we sell houses in two kind of packages. The first package is basically land and house entirely, or completely built unit, all in one sales transaction. And the second one is the two contract package. Basically, we sell the land, we transfer the land first, and then the portion of the revenue that's for the house being recognized based on construction progress. So this one is what I'm talking about that get impacted quite a bit. So the lockdown delayed this kind of construction, affected build to order house. Obviously, we could not deliver on time because the construction camp was closed for about 2 months. Obviously, affected transfer, title transfer, revenue recognition couldn't happen, and the repercussion of it is actually rebuilding that momentum takes some time. Okay, so and then Bang Rak Jai transaction. That's basically a summary of all the numbers of what happened in the numbers in the third quarter. I guess I might not go into detail. I think it's quite self-explanatory already in terms of numbers and the explanation. I may just highlight a few things which I talked about earlier. The fluctuation in the gross margin, the abnormality in the administrative expenses. You can see it was exceptionally high in the second quarter, and it was exceptionally low in the third quarter. That came from accounting, TFRS 9, basically. The rest is quite self-explanatory. Do you have anything to add? Okay. On the 9-month basis, as you can see, revenue was actually up, but the margin was down about 11%. Like I said, basically based on that Bang Rak Jai transaction. Taking that out, cooperation was not that bad. I mean, really compared to others in the same industry. Everyone got hit. Some dipped into red, some stay above the water, but very thin margin. We are subject to the same situation. In terms of balance sheet, as the result of the balance sheet reform for as of third quarter, we saw total asset went down a little bit through all these transaction in and out. As I said, we sold 10 rai along Kruntep Grita Road. We bought 15 rai along Romgrao Road, and the construction progress of ongoing project built up in terms of cost of property a little bit. Okay, and the inventory of the construction completion that happened. Mostly what this means is actually the low-rise condominium close to the Sirirat Hospital. In terms of liabilities, the interest-bearing debt went down about 400 million baht from the end of 2020. Obviously, we repayment of the loan against two land plot sold, and also early redemption of the prior bond that we took out, I think, a while back already. There was a 200 million baht early redemption on that bond as a consequence of the change in the shareholding structure. But there was some new loan for the Romgrao land plot, as I mentioned. Current portion of IBD increased almost 700 million baht, basically because of that prior bond which I talked about. I think balance about 800 million baht now is being due in June next year. So obviously under one year, so it gets listed as current portion. Kun Wuthichay is in progress of we're probably going to renew that bond a bit. And then just to communicate here once again that balance sheet reformation still on progress. There would be a few more transaction that we plan actually have done already partially and plan for the remaining of this quarter as well. So I guess we can only disclose when that happens. You probably will see it in year-end results, right? Okay, in terms of outlook, we're talking about backlog of 1 billion baht available for sales. Right now it's about 10 billion baht, more or less. Majority of it is still at the Banyan Tree Residences Riverside. I think a few more units there is queuing up to be transferred. The NIRVANA element Bang Na is the second one in terms of value, almost 220 million baht. This one is actually 2 stories house in one of the upcoming area of Bangkok, very close to Suvarnabhumi. Has been selling quite well. In fact, sales momentum has been picked up mostly for this site. I guess a lot of people starting to realize now that if not buying now, you might not be able to find better deal than now. So that's why we're seeing pre-sales picking up quite healthily. There are also a few units remaining for transfer at the most Isarapap. This is the low-rise condominium close to Sirirat Hospital, as I mentioned. Almost 100 million baht there. And not the last, but the top 4. The fourth one is townhouse, NIRVANA DAII along the Kruntep Grita Road, the new Kruntep Grita Road, Sinakurin Romgrao, if you will. In terms of land bank at the end of the third quarter, majority of it is still along the new Kruntep Grita Road. We net around 190 right. If you remember this same slide last quarter, 10 right has been reduced, but we got a new plot here with 15 right, which we talked about. This is diversification of the land bank. We have about 21 rights along what you call it, Ekamai Ramintra Road. We are on track to launch a new project, a new townhouse project in this land plot, probably before mid-year next year. And the two plots on we have another plot about eight rights along the purple line still. This one is next to Central Ratanathibet, and we have another at the end of the third quarter. We have another almost 4 rights in Pachachun area, and maybe a bit more 8.5 rights in Bang Na area. This is another new project as well, brand new product. The missing segment that we haven't really addressed, we didn't really have product to address this price range. It's a 3 stories single house in the price range of about 15 to 20 million baht, maybe 20 plus million baht, under a new brand, NIRVANA Absolute. This is actually the segment of the first Beyond, NIRVANA Beyond generation, the first generation of NIRVANA Beyond. The second generation of NIRVANA Beyond has progressed up in terms of pricing spectrum. We built this new one to slot it in. So if you imagine the entry level for us is NIRVANA Define, which is townhouse, 8 to 15 million baht. Also 2 stories house, NIRVANA Element, the same price range, 8 to 15 million baht. It's your choice of townhouse or single house with a little bit more space around the house. And then one step up, that would be NIRVANA Absolute. One step up would be NIRVANA Beyond. Okay, that's how we look at it. I guess I don't know if I fly through it too quickly. How much more time do we have?
Q&A.
Yeah. I guess I'll open the floor to the questions